सिस्टम ना एक नाव की तरह है चौधरी, सबको पता है इसमें छेद है, और तू उनमें से है जो नाव को बचाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। तू मरेगा चौधरी, तू मरेगा।
Crime shows as a searing commentary on the Indian condition, foregrounding the subaltern and the working class and using a brutal system to posit questions on its own ethics and morality, Paatal Lok and Kohraa lock you into the inner world of their characters, even as their actions play out in complex milieus that are microcosms of India today. Easily the best of Indian storytelling, they have one thing in common: writer, creator and producer Sudip Sharma. So Sudip, this is a special place I believe we are meeting you in. You want to tell us before you show us later where we are and why this place is special?
I write out of here, so it's something that is very, very sacred to me. Now, having done all kinds of functions in the film business, writing is still the most difficult, the most personal, the most lonely of all the jobs you can do in my profession.
Shall we talk about Paatal Lok 2? And I must tell you that unlike many people, I saw Paatal Lok 2 first and then I went scrambling to see Paatal Lok 1, and they both worked for me for very different reasons. Your anxiety as the creator between 1 and 2, they were at both times you have anxieties.
Right.
How were they different?
So in season 1, I guess the anxiety is whether this story is even worth telling.
Oh, really?
Yeah, whether this story is worth telling. That's a question you always ask. Like, why am I telling this story? Who is interested in this story?
Right.
Or whether your characters are compelling enough, whether the audience is even ready or interested in a story like this, especially if you're trying to do something which is kind of a little away from the normal form of storytelling. With your second season, the anxiety is they liked the first season. I don't know why they liked it. You come up with your own theories.
Right.
People come up with their theories, but
yeah.
Nobody really knows. And it's different for everyone. So you might like it for very different reason or dislike it for very different reasons. Somebody else might have their own reasons, and they are all equally valid. Because once you make it and it's out there, then it's out of your hands. With the second season, the challenge is, okay, but can I give them again? I'm telling this story all over again. Now they're coming in with the baggage. So the advantage in the first season is there's no baggage, right?
Yeah,
They're coming in. If they like it, they're gonna stay. With the second season, the complexity is comes from the fact that, okay, they liked the first season. I don't know why they like the first season. They have their reasons. What if they come in and they realize that this is not what, because now there is a promise. Now there is a promise that because of the viewer's attachment to
now it's
the
a
story.
brand.
Now
to pull out a reference from your past before you became a writer, your life before you became a writer.
Yeah, there's
a brand promise.
Yeah, there's a brand promise, and are you sticking to the brand promise or not? But I'll be honest with you, that is, and then you try to decode. That is not something I take upon very seriously. That anxiety, it's there somewhere at the back of my mind. I have to acknowledge it, but it's not something. Because the first question then you ask is, why are you doing this? Who are you doing this for? And I think the first answer is yourself. And so it has to excite me. If I am sort of rehashing what I have already done in one season, will it excite me? Because it's filmmaking, especially making shows, is a long commitment. The first season took us 4 years. The second season took us 4.5 years.
This is from writing to release.
From writing to release, it took us. It took me particularly longer for various reasons. Maybe I need to improve upon my speed, but it did. And then you want to make it challenging for yourself. You want to and you also want to then decode the sentiment as to why it worked. So the answer that I came up with conveniently, which might have been wrong, but the answer that I came up for myself was they liked it because it was fresh. They liked it because they hadn't seen, a storytelling in this form. They hadn't seen a character like this, or even the other characters. The easy way to look at it is, we had Hathoda Tyagi, who was very popular in season 1. We don't have Hathoda Tyagi now. So let's try and create another Hathoda Tyagi. And I think there lies the problem. If you try to now
repeat what you think you've decoded as the reasons for its success.
But just to zoom out a little and say, okay, what they liked was not the fact that there was Hathoda Tyagi. What they liked was the fact that there was a character they hadn't seen. There was a setting that they hadn't seen. So can I give them that again? Rather than being attached to particular characters or a particular location, a particular setting, can I give them something fresh again this time? And hence the choices that we made.
For me, one of the reasons I really liked both season 1 and 2 is complexity.
Right.
Is that something you're aware of when you say fresh? Or is that something that's got accommodated when you say long form and it allows you to
I think it got accommodated. With the fact, the moment I said long form, the moment I said an investigative drama, I think it comes with all sort of and I'm a huge fan of noir as a genre. It comes with its own complexity. It comes with its own sort of sort of shining a light on society. That's par for the course for this kind of storytelling. So Nagaland
in season 2, how did that come about? Because I'm guessing that a lot of you and your team of writers, one thing that you had to crack was, why does Hathi Ram get connected with Nagaland and this case? And there has to be something that makes it plausible, right?
There were two reasons. One reason was personal, and there was the other reason was
I've heard you say that you grew up in the Northeast.
So that was the personal reason. I wanted to, if we don't tell our stories, who will, and I thought with the second season of a successful show, you would have that leverage to say, okay, I'm going to take this story to Nagaland. I'm going to take this story to a place where we normally don't take our stories to, and they would let me. If I was pitching it as a first season, it would be difficult. The question would be, oh no, this is niche, and But with this character who had kind of become popular, and with this particular season, which was like, you're like, okay, they're going to give us a chance. They're going to give us a chance to start telling this story, and then it would depend on whether we are able to start off on a good note, and then they're going to stick, otherwise they're going to not. The second reason was actually a bit whimsical, I'll be honest, because it was that, okay, when we assembled again and we wanted to sort of, and I had a new set of writers this time because I wanted that freshness. I didn't want any of the baggage from the first season. I didn't want anyone to say, that, this is what we did, so let's try and replicate that. I wanted to throw everything out of the window.
Then how many writers did you have? Give us a little sense of that as well.
I had 3 in the first season and another 3 in the second season as well. But it was that, okay, we were in Chitrakoot, we were in Punjab, we were sort of in the heartland, and this is what it felt like in the first season. Now we need to make it fresh for ourselves first, and then also for the audiences. Let's try and take it away as far as possible from this particular setting. So where can we go? And it was almost like you look at the map and say, okay, we are in Chitrakoot, we're going to take it to, the complete eastern
completely different landscape
of the completely different landscape, and just see how that works, as a landscape.
So the landscape came before, and then the story emanated from there.
And then the story emanated from there. So it really was that. And now let's tell an authentic, or as authentic as we can be. Authentically try and tell a Nagaland story with it, and then you come up with the characters, and then you research, and then you try to sort of get the milieu right, and all of that that you have to do in writing.
Now when you take this out of this room and into a meeting with the streamer, in this case Prime Video, in the case of Kohrra, Netflix, then a lot of other things come into play. What happens between the story exiting from here and then getting approved of, or does that happen in a piecemeal way, episodic way?
Yeah, it happens in an episodic way.
Okay.
It happens in an episodic way, but I normally try and so you give them the first. I normally try and give the first episode, and then say, okay, do you like it? If they like it, then say, okay, now just give me some time. I'm gonna come back with all of them, because I think it's a far better way. Because what happens is while you're writing the story, you discover it yourself. So you know there are things you go back and change, and then you know you only leave them confused if you're if you're changing things and saying, oh, you read that already, but I've already done those changes and it's not. So I like doing that. Give them the first episode, give them a taste of what you're going for in terms of
and then give the whole story.
And then give the whole thing, give all the 7
So how
episodes.
did they react when they came across, what episode was it, when you so ruthlessly put a bullet into Ansari's head? Like, why did you do it, Sudip? And like I said, I saw Paatal Lok 2 first.
Right.
So my relationship with Ansari as a character was not a very long one.
Right.
And yet I felt like, oh my God, what's he doing? What's happening here?
There were multiple reasons for that. I mean, it was a difficult decision.
I'm sorry, I like the way I'm like totally piling on, but yeah.
No, I mean, I must admit it was a difficult decision for all of us, because he's a much loved character and he was a really loved character in season 1. For people who saw season 1, he was the underdog even more than Hathi Ram, and he was that.
There was a gentleness
to him
in this really violent world, which we'll get to eventually. But yeah,
and he was that little piece of goodness, in the show.
Yeah.
Like he was pure good.
Yeah.
There wasn't a bad bone in his body. And it just, it felt cruel, but it also felt kind of, like we were discussing in writing, there is this dictum called "kill your darlings," and he was one of our darlings. He really was, and it was that okay, they have gone on this case together, and they need to crack this case. In an investigative drama, what's also important is that you keep raising the stakes. Because you got to hook them for 8 episodes, right? And if the stakes or if the obstacles remain the same, then it is no fun, because you can sustain that for probably an hour or 2 hours, but how do you sustain that for this is the danger level they started on, and it kind of remains at that level. There's this increasing.
So the emotional stakes.
The emotional stakes, the two of them went as a team.
Yeah.
They needed to crack it. Yeah. He was the man who had a little more power than Hathi Ram, but now even he's gone. How would Hathi Ram be without even that sense of authority? Now, with him, how would he be without that emotional support? And does he even have it in him to now go back and try and find out the truth, which no one else wants to find out? And if he makes that call, then you really are rooting for him. Then you really are saying that, okay, go man, and Godspeed, we are with you, and we really want you to find the truth and to succeed in this particular journey. So it came from that really, And I'll be honest with you, the platforms were, I mean, the platform was surprised, but they also went along. They went along. They were very supportive of the idea that okay, if you know what you're doing, then just be at it.
Let's talk about Hathi Ram. You just so lucidly brought out how the stakes for Hathi Ram go up, and how you get people to root for him. What strikes me, and I'm guessing a lot of people who like this character that has been created, is just the basic decency he brings to his life, and whatever little sphere of action he can make or he can undertake. And he's not intellectual about it. It's not justice. It's not, it's not intellectual. It's not cerebral. It is just about and it's almost like a very pure, honest way of saying this is right, this is wrong, this needs an answer, that's sort of acceptable, that's not acceptable, and that kind of marks him out, therefore, for being human.
Right.
Just let's talk about this character that you've created, and how from I mean, for people, season 1 was inspired by Tarun Tejpal's book, The Story of My Assassins. Hathi Ram, the name and a character appears in that book. The person we meet in your show is very, very different. Tell us about the evolution of Hathi Ram, the origin and the evolution of Hathi Ram, because it's really quite I can see many books written about Hathi Ram, or, graphic novels or shows. Or what have you.
It's a character that rather than a single moment of this is who Hathi Ram is. I think it's a character that we sort of developed over a period of time.
Yeah.
We kind of understood him, and that's why the first season took a lot of time to write, because it was also my first time trying to write long form. I was not sure if I have the chops for it. I'll be honest with you. And you discover it, where you write something and you're not very happy with it. You go back to the drawing board, and then you come up with something else. And he came about like that. I think the best way to understand a character is to have him make decisions. And when you see him make decisions, and there would be a debate that would come up in the writer's room, and it would be like, okay, why is he doing this, or is he going to do this, or is it the right thing to do? In those debates is how you kind of discover the particular character. So even, for example, question like in the first season, I remember, okay, how does Hathi Ram take to Ansari being from another religion? And the Muslims are very underrepresented in the force, especially in Delhi police. Like I came across a statistic. I remember it was that Muslims made up for 1.4% of the police force. And it just, okay, how would a police officer be feeling if a Muslim in a place like this, especially around the time, when there's this whole thing, in the country that, there's this whole otherization or whatever you want to call it, that is happening. And how would Hathi Ram be reacting to it? And how would the other people be reacting to it? I think the human part of it, the Hathi Ram is just the humanity in him.
Yeah.
I think we kind of slowly discovered as we were writing, rather than having one.
And that's what I was trying to say when I said that Hathi Ram's decency and being human or humanity is not cerebral, it's not intellectual. So he's not approaching Ansari being Muslim and being treated in a certain way from the lens of being secular, but just being decent.
Right.
I think that is perhaps one of the most powerful things that Paatal Lok does.
I mean, he's not really woke.
Hathi
Ram, he's not intellectualized. He's not holding placards for what is right and what is wrong. But when he has to make a certain choice, he would make it based on the idea of good and bad, based on the idea of what is the decent thing to do in a particular situation like this. And that I think that there's just too much in the last few years, in the last few decades maybe. There's this whole too much intellectualization around the idea of what is a liberal or who is a liberal, and Hathi Ram kind of breaks that.
He is liberal though.
He is liberal. He's very liberal in his ways, but not in the way we have come to perceive liberal, not in the way we have come to associate that. Right now in today's times, being liberal is almost an insult. Especially on social media.
And thank God we are not in America.
There,
even on the streets, it would be a problem.
Right. And he kind of breaks that, which is what makes him so likable. Because there's also, which is also pointing something towards how the prejudices that we carry about somebody who looks like that and talks like that. We do not necessarily expect him
Hathi Ram to be
and he surprises us. He surprises us, and he, then he makes us feel bad about judging him wrongly. Which is what makes him, makes him so interesting a character, because he's constantly surprising you till the time you fully get to understand him, and then by the end of season 2, hopefully, when you know him that well, and when he makes that choice of leaving behind that money, even though some people were surprised, but most people were also reacting with the way of, it's Hathi Ram.
It's Hathi Ram. You don't expect Hathi Ram to take money that doesn't belong to him.
And that's just him. That's what makes him, so.
Does Hathi Ram reflect your politics?
I think so. Let's just say Hathi Ram is the man I would really like to be. He's the man I aspire to be in a lot of ways. There is he's liberal, but he doesn't wear it on his sleeve. He's liberal, but he's not, let's just say, fanatical about labels. He's not fanatical about. I mean, as much as I am a liberal, I am also a little disappointed with how this whole thing is. It's just become a lot of posturing. The whole liberal agenda.
Performative also.
It's become very performative. It's become this holier than thou. It's become this. It's almost annoying. I'll be honest with you. I have a lot of liberal friends. In fact, most of my friends are liberal, but sometimes it also gets on my nerves how there's so much of posturing about it on social media, and there's so much of talk rather than some actual work about it. Or even if it is you're doing something or saying something, it's for effect, or it's for the fact that you want to be seen a certain way. Hathi Ram is not that at all, and I really like that, and I think it's a lot closer to the kind of person that I would want to be. I've also modeled him a bit on my father, who
does he knows that, I'm guessing
he knows that. He hasn't seen it. He hasn't seen Paatal Lok. He doesn't watch.
But please tell him this, because all your shows are about fathers and men and masculinity and the emotional landscape. Your father should know that Hathi Ram has been inspired. His character has been inspired by him.
And by my father, I mean, rather than literally inspired by my father, I think a certain set of values that the previous generation brought, and the previous generation believed in. Like I remember one of the things that I would find very astonishing about my father was the fact that I've never heard him say, the man is 76 now, God bless him. I've never once heard him say, I'm bored. And that's quite an achievement. If you look at it from our generations or the next generation's point of view, we are constantly bored. There are a million things available to watch. There is the phone, which is such a powerful device. You have all of this. You have the travel options, all of that. But we are bored constantly. And the previous generation kind of, I think the concept didn't exist for them. For them, they were just happy being. They were just happy doing their jobs. They were happy providing, getting up, and he never missed a day in his life.
Life is also simpler in a sense.
Right. And that's who
and
Hathi
more
Ram
basic.
Is. And that's who Hathi Ram is. So I kind of really admire that.
Pair everything up.
I really admire that simplicity. I really admire that ability to just be in the moment. I would never have Hathi Ram say I'm bored, because I don't think he's that guy. That even if the work is a drudgery and it's tough and he's not getting appreciated and all of that, he would still show up on time. He would never be late. He would still do his hours, and if there is a case that comes which is a nothing case, which is not going to get him anything, he's still going to pursue it, because that's who he is, that's what his job is. So there's almost something very Gita like in terms of his philosophy. You just keep doing what you do. I like that. So I think it does. He has a piece of my heart, I would say.
And then you take this guy, and he's a cop.
Right.
And he's a cop at the lowest levels of the organization, where brutality is very much a part of everyday life. How do you juxtapose that Hathi Ram is a gentle, liberal, decent human being in the context of the work that he does, which is brutal, which is brutalized, which is brutalizing,
right.
And where power is about violence, it's about the uniform and all of that,
right.
That baggage.
Which is actually, that is what makes him interesting. These inherent contradictions is what makes him very, very interesting. We were talking about being liberal, and it's very easy to be liberal on social media because it doesn't cost you anything. I can be the holiest of the people on social media because there's nobody watching me. It doesn't, I can denounce something which I don't like because it doesn't take anything, anything from me. How would a cop who has to deal with sort of the, if I may say, the filth of the society at all points of time, how does he deal with it? And it's impossible for him to then have this very woke attitude that I will never slap somebody to get a confession out, because he is also coming in with a place of practicality. He's coming in, and I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm not going there at all because that's a very complex debate. Police violence or police brutality is a custodial violence. It's a very, very complex debate. But we also need to acknowledge the fact that they work in very difficult settings and they have very difficult jobs to do, and they're sort of the gatekeepers of the society. They have the job of keeping crime out of society or to book the criminals and all that comes along with it. To know how much pressure to exert and on whom to exert that pressure and when to stop, and if you have gone wrong, then to acknowledge it and to admit your mistake. I think that's what makes him special. So it's my job, I'll do it, and if I need to use a little force, I'm going to apply that. But if I'm wrong at that, I'm going to make amends for it, which is what makes him, which is where you see him having that empathy for Hathoda Tyagi at the end of it, when
he understands
once
his
he
story.
understands his story, and then and that's what makes
also, I think in season 1, was it where there's an altercation with the son and the wife, and he slaps his wife in a moment of anger, and then later on when he comes back, and that the first thing she does is slap him back, and there's it's just a very fleeting thing.
Right.
But I thought that also kind of ties into what you're just saying, isn't it?
Right. So he realized it the moment. It's the first time he he raised a hand on her, and he knew it, that he committed a mistake in the heat of the moment, and he also knows that he's got to pay for it. So he comes back and she slaps him in front of his subordinate. He takes it. He takes it like a man, and he takes it with an apology in his eyes. That's his way of apologizing, and they'll never talk about that again. That's the kind of couple they are. It's
interesting to me that between Paatal Lok and Kohraa, both these shows in their own way end up sort of mining the interior, the mind of the man in a way, right? It gives you an up-close look of masculinity and an emotional landscape in which the average Indian working class man finds himself. Is that a conscious exploration? Because even when you look at the titling of your episodes, there's very clearly a father-son relationship that's being explored, a parent-child relationship that's being explored, whether in Kohraa or Paatal Lok.
I think partly it's conscious and partly it's
because it need not have been there in the pursuit of the stories, right?
Right. So I'll be honest, as much as I enjoy doing the investigative part of it, that's not my main story. I'm really interested in the thematics of it. I'm really interested in sort of exploring different facets of a human being through it. I'm exploring relationships between individuals through it. Let's just say the investigative drama is the hook by which I'm trying to force the audience to watch everything else.
A much more complex
thing. And what I am trying to say, what with the larger with the larger story. That's really the point of it. And I particularly enjoy writing and exploring these dynamics between individuals, exploring relationships. Relationship between, say, a husband and a wife, or a relationship between a man and the society, at large, a man in the country, at large. What does it mean to be a citizen? What does it mean to be an Indian? Who is a good Indian? And and all of that. Like these are the questions that you're also asking yourself at some point of time. You're also trying to shine a light on your own relationships, be it with your with your siblings, your parents, or with the society at large, and that's the fun of it. That's the joy of it.
What is interesting is that in both Paatal Lok 1 and 2, Hathi Ram finds out what really happens,
Right.
but there is no formal justice being done, right? He finds out, he understands what really resulted in this outcome,
Right.
and what are all the floating pieces of the puzzle, and he puts it together, but there is no formal justice, anybody being brought to book, or the real evil guy or murderer or whatever you may want to call it in the plot, getting any formal justice. Is there a reason for that?
Most of the times in real life there is no.
Yeah, that's actually what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, that the when it comes to and like a crime involving big stakes and big players, the real players get away with it.
So that's also quite a cynical view, a realist view.
Yeah, I am quite cynical. I think not to the point of feeling there is no hope. No, not that. There is hope till the time Hathirams exist.
Yeah.
And I think the hope is not that the world will change. I think that level of cynicism I do have, but that a few good men and women will continue to do what they truly believe in, despite nothing ever happening. And that's what makes him so special. That even when nothing really changed at the end of the first season, he's still willing to go out there and pursue this particular case at great risks for himself, because that's something he truly believes in. I think, and there is some hope to be found in that, but the larger wheels, they keep on moving, and you are but a...
Actually, when I watch Kohrra, when I watch Paatal Lok, there's one thing that I find common, which is besides the complexity that plays out, and the plot and whodunit is one part of it, but it's the fabric in which that little story gets threaded in that I find more appealing. And in both these shows, it seemed to me that I would find stories of the subaltern, people who are not the story. So if you read a statistic which says 30 people and more died at the Kumbh Mela, I feel somebody in there may be a story in one of these shows. Where is this empathy? Where is this desire to tell stories about these people coming from? Is it the market? Is it you? Is it what streamers feel works for long form? I don't know. I'm just very, very curious. Or is it you and Sudip and your personal concern?
I think it's personal. I think that is a... That empathy is something I would like to believe I have, and I would like to believe that is something that forms the sort of the basis of a lot of these choices. It's it's this idea of trying to understand society at large. Also try and understand this,
but through people and stories of people who are not of your class,
who are not of my class, right? So I'm actually very little interested in this,
which is not a problem. I'm just pointing out these are my observations.
No, for sure,
and therefore more difficult, more challenging.
And I like that challenge. I like the challenge. I'm not very interested in people of stories of my class. Maybe because I feel I understand them well enough, or maybe because I feel that that their stories are being told, as it is, and it's the other stories which are probably not being told as much. It's also trying to understand, characters or lives which are not necessarily like yours, and there is some joy to be found in that. Some
discovery.
Discovery of how, because it must be difficult to be, to be considered faceless is not easy.
Yeah.
And you sometimes feel it when you probably meet someone very powerful, and that's when you realize you're waiting outside. If you're waiting outside a big politician's office or a big police officer's office, and there are some 50 people sitting there, and you're one of them, and
you suddenly
feel the facelessness of it all. So, and how does it feel to be like one in a million riding riding a train every day, taking a train to work and coming back, and if you were to fall off the train and die, you would be like one of the 8 people who died yesterday, falling off the Mumbai Suburban. There is some this I like being able to know more about.
Is it also your sense of perhaps a comment on the way India has worked out?
Possibly, because
I mean, we're still so stratified, still so hierarchical. I mean, still so unequal on all on counts.
Yeah, and it's also, it's fun. You realize that when you travel abroad, right? Because is the way a waiter speaks to you in the US is very different from the way a waiter speaks to you in India, and you realize that comes from a sense of empowerment that they have, or if not empowerment, then a sense of equality that possibly someone...
The basic equality.
That
we're both humans.
Yeah, we're both humans at the end of it.
Yeah.
Out here, there's so much of that subservience, that people are forced to kind of take upon, and it almost becomes ingrained in them, just, if you talk to someone, from a class lower than yours, then you necessarily expect them to be very reverential, or them to address you as aap, or if they were to do it any other way, you'd probably be offended. And there's just it's complex, right? It just these things which we have gotten so used to, and when you travel is when you kind of it shows you a mirror to yourself.
Given the fact that these shows have received a good response, and I'm going by what the media is saying, right? So there's a lot of interest in it, there are positive reviews, there's talk about it, and there's great affection.
Right.
Who is consuming this? Is it Hathi Ram and his class? Is it Balbir Singh and his class in Kohrra? Who is the audience for Paatal Lok and Kohraa, now that you've made these?
I honestly don't know for sure. I wish I did. I would love to know. I think a lot of upper middle class and middle class, for sure. But that's really the larger...
Like, is a Hathi Ram somewhere sitting and watching Paatal Lok and feeling seen, feeling represented? You think?
I would like to believe so. I would like to believe so.
Or is it the editor of Paatal Lok season 1 who's watching it and saying, "Oh man, yeah, I should have not sold out," in a way? Who is it for?
I honestly don't know about that, but I think the audiences on OTT is largely people like us, but it's changing, it's growing, and hopefully there is also not just the Hathi Ram, but there's also a Hathoda Tyagi who's probably sitting
that's what
it.
If Hathoda Tyagi and Hathi Ram feel that they are seen, my God, that would be like, what more could somebody want, isn't it? I mean, what more could a creator want? That's what I meant, not someone, but a creator. So Sudip, you said that you started writing Paatal Lok 1 in 2016. We're in 2024. And do you think some of the themes and issues that were tackled in the backstories, or through the backstories of the guys who were framed in Paatal Lok season 1, do you think you can pick up those issues in 2024? Because we know, we read, we hear, I mean, I have friends in this business, and it's very clear that there is a lot of informal and sometimes even formal censorship, and therefore instinctive self-censorship.
Yeah. It is difficult.
Could you have done Paatal Lok season 1 in 25?
Would they let me? No.
Uh-huh.
No.
Yeah.
I think we were lucky in that sense that we were able to tell the story when we could still tell it.
Yeah.
But it has become increasingly difficult, and I think a lot of it has also got to do with how it just how things get turned around, and how then it becomes about you deliberately trying to stoke certain emotions and to or that you are being insensitive towards, whereas what you were trying to do was be sensitive towards towards these very things, but it gets turned around like that on the social media, and it just I think at the end of the day it's a business, and I understand and respect where the streamers and the platforms are coming from when they do not want to go there with it. But yeah, it has become, you have to admit, it's become increasingly tough.
So you could not have made Paatal Lok 1 today?
No.
Where does that leave you? Because you do want to tell the stories. It is a business. It has to survive, and you will get money to tell your stories on these mediums, on these media, if you then comply with the larger zeitgeist.
Right.
So where does that leave you? What are the dilemmas you're facing at this point of time?
I think you have to basically dig deeper and find cleverer ways to tell the story.
So be subversive, subvert the...
Yeah, that's one way to go.
Yeah.
You can be subversive with it. The other way to go is probably, like for example, with the second season of Paatal Lok, my idea was to, instead of telling the story from a point of view of anger.
Yeah.
So Paatal Lok 1 came from a point of view of anger.
Yeah.
There was anger inside me, which was also the anger inside Hathiram at that point of time,
and also the anger in Tarun Tejpal's book,
right,
the story
so
of the assassins from which
it
was
was
adapted.
all of that. Then with the second season of Paatal Lok, I think what replaced it was a sense of tiredness and
I was going to say resignation.
Yeah, a sense of resignation, and you see that in Hathiram. You see that in the writing as well, with which we are looking at a lot of these things, and
I'm now looking at Ansari's death in a completely different light.
Yeah. It's so now I actually look at it with a sense of resignation that it had to happen. That was the that's what it would lead to. Eventually, all the hate and the anger and so yeah, I've tried to sort of develop or look at it more from a sense of empathy now, rather than from a point of view of anger. I think there's a little more maturity to that. Anger comes from a place of you disliking something or something not commensurate with your values, and you wanting to change things. And I think maturity is more about making peace with things and saying, okay, this is how things are. And
making peace or compromising? Or are they the same thing?
No, I don't think they're the same thing. I don't think they're the same thing. Compromising would be Hathiram turning a blind eye. Making peace is saying, okay, this is how it is, and I accept it because I am but a small cog in the whole wheel, and I can't change the things, but I'll keep doing what I'm doing. Which is how I would also like to look at my work, that I can't change the larger framework, but I'm just going to keep telling my stories with empathy.
So this is an outlook, but what are the dilemmas that would happen at an operational level given this outlook?
Yeah, no, you still do your you still tell your stories with all the honesty, but I think there are places you can go and the places you can't go
are clear.
Are if they're not clear to you, then they'll be made clear to you.
So then there are also stories that you can tell and you cannot tell.
No, I think you can tell all stories, or maybe not. There are stories you can't tell probably, but there are ways to tell the same story with a different, more mature, empathetic, at times compromised lens. You know.
But does this weigh on you? Does this worry you? Or given that you're already in production, you're in
Right.
post production, you're probably you've got Kohrra season 2 lined up. I think in this year that we're going to
Right.
get to see it this year. That you're not thinking about it actively right now. It's when you start work on the next one, which if you haven't already, is that when this comes to weigh in on you?
I think for me, luckily it has sort of coincided, or I don't know if subconsciously it has forced me into, but I personally, I feel it has coincided that some of these inquiries that I was interested in, I have made with my work, and I have actually trained my lens a little more inwards. So instead of dealing with man's relationship with the society at large, I'm looking at it as more his personal relationship. So for example, the second season of Kohrra, or even the first season of Kohrra, was a little more, if I may say, contained, or a little more sort of, it is little more of like family relationships, or romantic relationships, or whatever, so I think I'm also more interested in heading towards that direction with my work, because I've said these stories, I've said some of these stories with this particular, I also need to keep it fresh for myself. So I don't know if it's just my way of, of
making peace,
or
compromising,
or compromising.
Fair
with
enough,
it.
no, but at least
But that's,
you'll figure it out as it unfolds. I guess
that's the way forward. I feel.
So Sudip, I think you need to, since you've given us access to your, did you call it the writing pad?
Yeah.
Yeah. Since you've given us access to the writing pad, will you give us a little more access and show us exactly what we can see here? Because I saw a board there with episode breakup notes and stuff. So if you can just show us a little bit, I'd really love that.
For sure.
What are we looking at, Sudip? Kohrra 2?
No, it's something new. Yeah, something. So Kohrra 2, I mean, we have finished shooting.
Right.
So,
and you're directing Kohrra 2?
I'm directing
all the
that as well.
episodes?
Yeah, I'm co-directing it with Faisal,
Right.
Faisal Rahman.
Okay.
So the two of us have directed all the episodes.
And that's new for you?
It is the first time I'm directing.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no. So I have showrun all my other shows, which it involves a lot of it. But directing per se, yeah, it's
but isn't it like a total overload?
I mean, I love show running. I think it's where I really came into my own as a
creative person.
As a creative person, even more than as a writer, because then now I had control over what we were making. But directing was fun, because also I think I needed a new challenge going into it, because I had done it a few times, and it's not that I won't only show run going forward. But this was also fun to be able to now look at images and to be able to talk in images with the DOP and that was fun. It was new.
And was it scary?
To start off with, a little, because you also don't want to be. You're scared for the show rather than I was more scared for the show than for myself, because you don't want to approach it or come to it from a place of vanity. So I needed to ask myself, is it because now I'm just wanting to just control the whole thing? Is it because that, or because I want
so what?
to
Yeah, what's the answer? What was your answer?
No, I think it was still the same. I think just because you also realize it's a I think a director's is a very overrated job profile. Now having done it, I can
what do you
say
mean?
it's a very overrated job profile.
What does that mean? Are you saying that directors are not are overrated? So what they do and what they bring to the table, they get more credit for what they actually do?
I think so.
Are you serious?
Yeah, no, I really think so.
Are your directors hearing you?
No, I mean, I love what these guys have done.
Right.
But I think as a just in the industry, I think there's a lot more. We do not acknowledge enough the work that a good DOP puts in, the work that a good production designer puts in, the work that a good editor puts in.
Of course.
I'll be honest with you, like when I was directing for the first time on Kohrra 2, a lot of times I felt, these guys are just doing it, they
What am
know,
I doing?
What am I doing? They know what they're doing, and you just have to be, you just have to know what to say no to.
I think traditionally, maybe my sense is that a lot of directors have relied on DOPs, etc., production designers, costume designers, and so many other people and heads of departments to get their movie together.
Right.
And their focus has been on the acting,
Right.
and getting the performances, right? Am I right if I say that?
Yeah, but that the actors are doing, So what you're honestly, what you're really doing as a director
This is going to create a problem. I hope you know that. I hope you know we're recording.
No, I know that, and I say it with all humility and
Right.
with all with a perspective, it's a. I think we do, rather than let's just say the other departments are very underappreciated.
Okay.
And a lot of what I went in thinking, there would be a lot of, there are a lot of extra work that I would have to take up. It wasn't that much, honestly. It was my DOP Ishan, my production designer Mukund, the costume stylist Maria. They knew what they were doing, and you just have to guide them, and you just have to know what you don't want.
With direction, Sudip has added a new skill in his pursuit of storytelling. A pursuit he chose over a steady corporate career his MBA degree from IIM Ahmedabad had offered him. The years of struggle that followed, a necessary rite of passage. A lot of people may realize that they have a passion for the movie business or show business, and then it's a huge struggle, and we all know how many people don't make it.
Right.
What was your struggle? What was your journey? How did this transition happen?
It was a long struggle. It took me 10 years. It took me 10 years where I could say with some amount of respectability that I'm a screenwriter. Because I really didn't have any credits or good credits to my name. There was no money for the first 10 years. It's only when NH10 came out in 2015 was when I was noticed, my work was noticed, and there was a legit film with which got reasonably good reviews that I could claim.
I went to the theatre and I saw it and I loved it. But there is a thing with you and violence, right? You're writing a lot of violence.
I have ended up writing. You can possibly say that. Although I don't have a violent bone in my body, but for some, or maybe that's the reason. You're trying to understand something which you don't necessarily understand. So I have ended up writing about violence quite a bit.
Let's talk about some of the casting, both in Paatal Lok and Kohraa, because they're very interesting, and we've seen Jaideep Ahlawat go from being a super actor to an actor star.
Right.
Is he an actor star today? How do you see that journey?
He is phenomenal. Jaideep is by far the best actor that I have worked with. He's the best actor that we have right now among us, Like if I can say this, over like 17 episodes of the 2 seasons of Paatal Lok, there has not been one single shot, and I'm not saying scene, I'm saying there's not been one single shot where I thought Jaideep was not 100% the character. He was not 100% true to the script, or that he didn't do a great job of it. Nothing. There's not one shot of his that I can look back and say that. He's absolutely phenomenal to work with, and I just feel this sort of unsaid, unspoken kind of a bond between us. When we are working together, there's very little talk about work that we do, and it's just this very little. He would look at me. In fact, all three of us, even Avinash, all three of us have this. We talk about everything else but what we are shooting, even when we are shooting, and it's just this very little. We'll just look at each other, and we would know whether it works or whether we should go for another one, or it's beautiful when you have that kind of a chemistry. It's just beautiful.
Talk a little bit about your casting in Paatal Lok too. People went searching for who Daniel, the character who plays the actor who plays the character Daniel is, and he's a singer. Prashant Tamang from Indian Idol. There's of course Janu Barua, the Assamese filmmaker, playing a pivotal role. There are others. There's Kukunur, Nagesh Kukunur, who makes a reappearance. Suvinder Vicky in Kohrra, who the rest of India discovered thanks to Kohrra.
Right.
How does the casting work in your work?
So I mean, you're always trying to find newer, interesting faces because I casting in Bombay normally happens with with this sort of list of actors that you sit with, and okay, this guy was in this show and this guy was in that show, and and most of the casting gets done like that, and I don't particularly like that approach. The casting for all of my work was done by Nikita Grover, who was earlier with Casting Bay, and she's phenomenal, and she has the same sort of philosophy. In fact, sometimes when I really like an actor but who has been seen in enough movies and shows, I have to do the convincing to her that okay, no, he's right.
Try.
Let's get him. He's right for the part. And like, come on, sir, we can do better than this. Come on, don't tell me you are also going to do these. These obvious casting choices, and so she's really great, and she brings in that energy. But I think all of us, we kind of share that, like for example, Janu Barua was Avinash's idea. I thought it was phenomenal. It was a phenomenal idea because everyone kept suggesting for that part. Everyone kept suggesting to us Mr. Denny Dengzongpa, and that was the first name I did not want. He's a great actor, and we've all seen him, but it was again such an obvious casting choice. Nagesh Kukunur was Shruti's idea, who was our costume stylist on Paatal Lok too, and she came up with this, this really wonderful idea of Nagesh Kukunur, and I was like, oh wow, how come we didn't think of it earlier? So and then we had Anup Jalota in season 1 of Paatal Lok, which was Abhishek Banerjee's idea. So it's just you let yourself be open to these newer possibilities and newer casting choices. Suvinder Vicky did a very small part in Paatal Lok 1. He plays he's the guy who rapes Chaku's mother, but there was something about his presence, and he had done some really good work in Punjabi cinema, and I thought why not work with him in a much bigger role, and
but he's not in Kohrra too.
He's not in Kohrra too.
And why is that?
It's I actually ran out of story for him, I'll be honest, because I really enjoyed working with him, and I thought he was very good in the show, but we ran out of story for Balbir's character, and I think we needed to bring in a new character with a fresh set of complexity and a new arc, just to make it fresh for myself as well as for
and that's why Mona Singh, and the first female character protagonist that you're introducing into your universe of characters, right?
Yes, in a long while, I would say. I mean, I've in films I have written.
Yeah, NH10.
NH10 had, and also the character Udta Punjab, the character that Alia and Kareena played. They were pretty central to the story. But in the shows, the first time.
When you look at the work that you've done so far, and you look at the film industry that this is actually a subset of, do you see yourself doing work with stars, ever doing the kind of mainstream work that we are seeing, or you found a great niche and space to tell your kind of stories in the way you want to tell them in streaming?
I hope I don't have to. I really hope I don't have to sort of, because I'm honestly genuinely not interested in the idea of working with stars. It doesn't excite me at all. I mean, I'm really just interested in telling my stories, and if
whoever serves that purpose best, and if a story demands a star presence, and the star is willing to walk the distance and walk into the world of my script, then yes, of course, there are some stars who are very, very good actors, But you hear some directors who will say, "Oh my God, I will make a film with Amitabh Bachchan."
No,
Because
I
you've
don't
come with that nostalgia and that fandom, and then you're in a position where you can actually make a film with Amitabh Bachchan or Shah Rukh Khan or Ranbir. I don't know, whoever you feel like putting there. But you don't have that. You don't have a I want to make a film with X or Y or
not
Z.
at all. In fact, I if I get approached, I get a little, how do I get out of this? Or, I get a little uncomfortable.
Are you getting approached?
I mean, sometimes you do. Sometimes, there are agents and managers and there this and that. And, some people feel you should work with some, with someone. And it is kind of, it's a business after all. But I'm not very interested in the idea of it.
What do you see for yourself as the next things that will interest you, excite you, that you'd like to do?
I just keep getting better at what I do, honestly. That's the only thing that excites me. So there is a place you want to go with your craft, be it my writing, be it the filmmaking, be it in the quality of the films and shows that I get to make. And I don't know whether I'll ever get there, but you can just continue to try and hopefully get as close to sort of and this might sound like new age fart, but get as close to sort of to your maximum potential as a writer and as an artist. That's all we can honestly hope for.
From here. Thank you very much, Sudip. We wish you more wind beneath your wings and tailwinds. I have to stop and think because headwinds, tailwinds. I have to stop and think which is the appropriate one. Yes, tailwinds. We wish you tailwinds and more wind beneath your wings. Good luck and look forward to many more stories that help open up our eyes, minds, and most importantly, hearts, I think. Thank you.
Thank you so much.